Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to be continuing my sixth chapter for the upcoming book 2048, The Road to the United States. And in this chapter, I'm going to be discussing 4 new subjects that I address in the book. I'm going to summarize 3 of them in one go because they're pretty much related. But I am going to start off with one that speaks about Gaza specifically. Now, I chose to speak about Gaza in one chapter of the book for a very important reason. It's easily the forgotten part in the whole equation. I mean, just recently, Israel spent a few billion on a wall that goes in, out of the sea, below the ground, over the ground, electric sensors, all sorts, okay? And not just that, this place has been under siege for 16 years now. Israel controls everything to do with it. And the crisis in Gaza is really, really bad. You're talking about a place, and I'm quoting a few things from a research that was done in 2020. 27% of people live in homes that are hazardous to their health. 53% of the population live below the poverty line. Now, when we talk about the poverty line in Gaza, it's not like the poverty line in the UK or another European country. You're talking about a completely different poverty line. 68% of the population don't know where their next meal is coming from. 70% of everyone under the age of 30 is unemployed, and 80% of the population rely on foreign aid. Now, these are devastating numbers. It's a humanitarian crisis, truly a crisis, and it needs to be resolved. Now, the constant rhetoric that we hear from Israel is, oh, Hamas is taking advantage of the situation, they're using the people as hostages, they're this and that. Well, if you're so worried about the people of Gaza and you're so humane and kind and very good, how about open the borders with Gaza and let people in, give them the same rights that the Israelis are privileged to have, and let them live peacefully? Why don't you do that? Security risk? Well, you already check everyone who goes in Israel. So, what's the matter? Instead of trying to show the world how great you are by posting stuff on Facebook and social media that we got in so and so many people out of Gaza to go and work in Israel, well, that's like 0.1% of the population. If you're really interested about the people of Gaza, then offer them a genuine solution that will help them in the long run, not just as a short-term gain. Moving on from Gaza, I reach 3 different chapters in the book. One of them is titled, Israel is the only national home for Jews. And I address that topic by starting that it will remain a national home for Jews, but in a much better, safer, and more pleasant environment. Why? Because you would have your neighbors having the equal rights that you have. No one would be worried about inequality. You wouldn't be worried about people fighting because they're constantly under threat of getting kicked out, or retaliating against settlers who did aggressions against their land, or trying to kill security forces and this and that, because they will have the same rights that people of Israel have. The people in the West Bank, the Gazans, all of the population. You will have a full equal state. So it will be a national home that is much, much better than what we have nowadays. And another point that I address with the Israel is the only national home for Jews sentence is, how can one country be a national home for a specific ethnicity and that's it? It's a really dangerous statement. So is the Jew who was born in the UK, for example, or the US, isn't the UK or the US their national home? If someone was born in Bulgaria, isn't Bulgaria their national home? A national home is the place that you're born in and you feel the relation to and feel accustomed to live in and you like living in. That's your national home. A national home doesn't have to have your religious symbols, your religious history, or be a summary of all of your beliefs. It doesn't happen. So Israel is not the only national home for Jews, but if we reach out an all-out solution, it will be the best place to live in terms of both Jews and Arabs who like the land of Israel and Palestine. Now I have another chapter that's interlinked with this one because it also talks about the Jewish connection with Israel. And this one is basically called, Is Israel a Jewish state? Basically, Israel calls itself a Jewish state, right? 24/7, so it must be a Jewish state. Now, what I mentioned in this chapter is the 10 Commandments. 4 of the 10 Commandments say, Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, you shall not covet. Now, you tell me if Israel follows those rules or not, and if, based on that, it is a Jewish state following the Jewish religion and the teachings of Judaism. Following on from that chapter, I reach a non-supremacist state. I chose this title specifically because there were talks, obviously, that I mentioned previously about Israel being a Jewish supremacy, a Jewish supremacist state. And what I mentioned here is that we don't want any supremacy. We don't want Muslim supremacy, we don't want Christian supremacy, and we don't want secular supremacy. We want supremacy for no one. We want an equal country that both can live in equally, and that everyone inside this country is privileged to get the same rights that they're entitled to without any preference based on race, religion, or ethnicity, or anything else.